episode of Biters, the unofficial podcast for The Walking Dead and all things zombie and undead related. I always want to call this the official podcast, and that's just a little bit arrogant, I think.
That's all right. It's just you and me. We can be arrogant. Screw it.
I kind of just get a little ahead of myself, and I always catch myself.
That's right.
No, we're not official.
Listen, in our mind, we're official.
Exactly. Exactly. Well,
for our three listeners, we are official.
Maybe if we get nominated for a podcast award, then I can say we're official. Anyway, I am one of your hosts, Jeff Marsick, screenwriter and comic book writer, and with me is my artist and good friend, Kirk Manley.
Yeah. Biters.
we just had this internet. My internet. I just lost my internet. Lost everything. Lost internet, the phone, cable.
Difficulties here.
And I'm trying to patch together the where we were last off. We're high quality here.
I was in the middle of trying to nominate us for a podcast award. When we all of a sudden the podcast gods came down and said, "Oh, shut up, buddy." Are you dreaming? Let me cut this internet and fix your ass. I got bitch slapped by the podcast guys. Dream on, buddy. Dream on.
Well, there's a sign.
Yeah, there's a sign. Really, there's a sign. All right. And here we go. Rock'em sock'em.
Week 2 of season 5.
Yeah.
Just as a recap of last week. So, I know I had put this up on Facebook or the blog. I'm not sure if we talked about it last week, but so last week the premiere we had 17.5 million viewers, which destroyed the NFL last week. But I think the Giants were playing, so nobody missed anything.
Oh, shut up!
Oh, come on! You don't even watch football.
I do at the Super Bowl.
Exactly.
That doesn't count.
But the thing is that with DVRing, they do this thing, DVR live plus 3 or live plus 7. So if you include all the DVR viewing, that total actually gets bumped up another almost 5 million viewers. So it was a total of 22.3 million people.
Holy shit.
Yep. And 14.5 million of those were in that lucrative demographic of 18 to 49.
Yeah, 18 to 49. You know what's also awesome about that is that we both agreed last week that's like one of the best episodes the show has ever done.
Yeah. It's
right up in the top 3. You know what I mean? If not, for me, I think it's the best. So for 23 million people to tune in and see that, that's going to help carry some momentum into the season, I would think.
Okay, so I'm going to put this in perspective here. When The Walking Dead debuted in 2010, series premiere, now remember, 22.5 million viewers, 22.3, we'll call it 22.5. When it debuted in 2010, it was just over 5 million.
Oh my God. Now, and that was considered pretty good at the time, if I remember right.
Yeah, and The Walking Dead is just one of those shows that defies conventional Hollywood wisdom, right? Yeah. Because you start off with a shows start off great, and then they just peter off as the seasons go on. They don't tick up,
right?
Or they do tick
or
up,
they level. They level and stay about the same. Yeah,
they don't go up 4 to 5 times.
I know, right?
So it also talks about the Monday Night Football's ratings have remained consistent over the years on ESPN. Since moving to ESPN in 2006, its lowest season average is still 11.2 million viewers in 2007. This year, they're averaging 13.5 million viewers, which is just a little. In 2013, they averaged 13.7 million viewers for 17 games, which was just a little bit better than Walking Dead Season 4 of 13.3 million.
So they're almost averaging the same. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Wow. And that's always been King of the Hill, right?
Oh yeah, that's the NFL is nobody topples the NFL. So zombies
topple the NFL.
Apparently,
zombies versus NFL. Zombie for the win. TFW.
Yeah, I mean you have 22. You have basically 22 and a. You have basically 22 and a half.
What the hell is TFW?
You and your dyslexia.
Oh my God. All right. That's amazing. That's awesome. And they've already been renewed for a sixth season. I wish they'd look at these numbers and say, oh, you know what? Let's renew it for 5 more years. five
Yeah, you kind of
years.
Yeah, you kind of gotta wonder why they're just really, when you see that they renewed it for one season, you're like, really? Why not 3 or 4 to go? I mean,
yeah. Well, that and the fact that they're putting on a whole nother spin-off show that's basically going to be the same thing, just different people in a different location. So that's, I've never seen that done by a show before. I don't think ever. I mean, there's always been spin-offs, like Angel from Buffy and stuff like that, but there's never been, to my knowledge, kind of.
But not at the same time.
Yeah.
Right? Because Angel spun off after Buffy was off, right?
No. Angel was spun off season 4 of Buffy.
Okay.
And Angel went on after Buffy for one season. But that happens a lot with they take a character and kind of go off in a different direction with that character. But I've never. This sounds to me, although I think timing wise, from what I've read, it's going to take place. Although who knows, it's going to take place earlier in the outbreak, the spinoff.
It's Walking Dead Alaska. Walking Dead Topeka.
Yeah, it's going to take place more like when it started. That probably gives them, I don't know, a little bit more, although that's kind of more traditional. I think what is so powerful about this particular story structure is that because we're like into this 2-3 years, it's you don't see this traditionally in zombie. I think you and I talked about this. I don't know if we talked about it last week or off the podcast, but
we don't talk off podcasts.
No, that's
all our talking is.
Well, we might have
here.
talked about this at NYCC last weekend, but they traditionally you always join the movie or the TV show. It's usually movie when the zombie apocalypse is just starting, and you're watching survivors try to battle with it and get through it or whatever. But this is now the new paradigm. This is like we're really watching a show that takes place in a new world. And in fact, they talked about that. We'll get to it, I'm sure, but they talked about it in this episode. I mean, when Rick and Bob are having that conversation and Bob's saying, this is just a nightmare. We're going to, nightmares end. We're going to get this figured out, blah, blah, blah. And Rick's like, no, dude, this is the reality.
Right.
And that's what I think makes the show so unique as a zombie show, because we're now watching what life would be like in this world long-term, forever. You know what I mean? And so it makes it different. So I'm cautious about the expectations for a spin-off that takes place back in more of a traditional zombie setup,
Well, it's got to be better than Zombie Nation or whatever's on the Sci-Fi Channel. Holy cow.
I think that's called Zombie Trainwreck.
Aptly titled.
Yeah, amen. So those are great numbers and very, very promising. So excellent news. I wanted to just touch on before we got into the new episode that we didn't chat at all about the new opening title sequence.
Oh, right.
What was your feeling on that? Would you like that?
I do. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, I like it a lot too. I think that there's only one. All the shots they did were great. I thought it all worked out great. I thought the last shot with the lone zombie in the field, that's from I believe season 2. What was it called? 18 Miles to something or something like that.
Yeah, Abby Q actually he mentioned that in his note on our Facebook page. His favorite too. What do you say?
18 Miles Out.
Yep.
And he says that's one of his favorite episodes. We're going to talk. Yep. We're going to read his letter at the letter section. But so yeah, I love that image. It's a very haunting, scary image. I thought the only thing I miss from the new opening, from the last opening, is the one shot of the eyeball.
Oh yeah,
the eyeball. And really, other than that lone zombie in the last shot, there really isn't any zombie represented in the intro. So. I don't know. It's kind of, I just missed that.
It's a little disjointed and a little chaotic, which is kind of reminiscent of the show. I think. It just kind of captures that the show is more. There's more to this than just the zombies. It's not just.
True.
That's true. I think that's why you got a show on that train wreck on Sci-Fi Channel failed on the launch pad, because it was more about the zombies than it was what this is. So. And that opening sequence, I'm gonna have to look into who did that and the production, because it reminds me of the first couple seasons of American Horror Story. and
Right.
their opening sequence. They went to an animatronic or an animated one this season, which is really creepy. But but all of them, all the seasons have been really cool, and it's just kind of like I said, reminiscent of that show.
True Blood also had a very similar opening. I don't know if you've ever seen True Blood
Mm-mm.
on HBO, and they had a very similar. I don't know what it's jittery, stop motion kind of popping in and out, and really haunting imagery, and somewhat out of focus, and yeah, I think it's very effective, and I thought it was good, and it's great to see him change it up. I mean, it's 5 years or four seasons. I'm surprised they don't do it every season, but I guess it's a way to keep the cost down. All right.
So, well, I just had to, just talking about the opening scene, the before we get into our spiel, I thought it was kind of funny the how the episode started off and how it was almost kind of a Rocky montage of the two different groups, because we saw Tyrese and Carol talking, right? Or no, it was Rick.
Well, no, you get a couple different.
There were two teams, right?
Right.
But then you see them after their little conversation with each other.
Rick and Tara. I think it's Rick and Tara, and then Carol and Tyrese. And I think
so. It was the Rick and Tara one where I really noticed it, where they did their talking, and then there was the music playing in the background,
right?
Kind of like the slow mo of them coming into scene. Very.
Right. You didn't like that, or you did like it?
It was fine, but it just made me feel like this was like a Rocky montage. Like
I didn't take it as Rocky, but I definitely took it as kind of an action movie type of deal.
Oh yeah,
definitely. Yeah, and it was, but I thought it was effective because it became like a way to frame these small character interactions and character development that they needed to do, and I think they wanted to do that because they wanted to wrap up some of those loose ends. There were so many great little loose ends that get tied up quickly, and that after last week's episode, everybody was like, oh, it was a great episode, but what about this? And don't you think, I remember you were saying, I think Rick would still have a lot of issues with Carol and blah, blah, blah. And all that got addressed, and a lot of it.
I totally thought that someone was listening to our podcast because they hit pretty much everything that we've talked about.
Yeah. That's why we're going to win that award.
That's right.
That's right. But yeah, no, I thought it was cool. I don't think it was as effective as some of their other interesting openings have been. But what I like is that they're trying to do something unique every time, or a lot of the times, for their openings. And we've seen a lot of different ways that they do the openings. And I think that's cool because, you're never going to hit it 100% each time.
Right.
The fact that they keep doing something different, something new, something fresh. I like that.
Yeah. All right.
That music was badass too.
Oh yeah. Bear McCreary is just.
That was good.
All right.
All right. So, how many headshots? How many headshots you give it?
I'm gonna give it 4, which I think is good.
Yeah.
The entire episode, again, there weren't any. There were a couple moments where, not so much that it dragged, but there were a couple moments that were a little bit slow, but not enough to drag the entire thing down. And like we talked about last week, you can't have every episode can't be running full bore, full tilt all the time. And I thought there were a bunch of little things throughout the show that I really liked. So I gotta go with 4.
Yeah, I'm with you. I did 4 as well, and I feel pretty much the same way, that you can't expect the same kind of high intensity, action packed, move so fast type of episode as we had in the premiere every week. And I wouldn't want that, because it's the actual character development, the emotional relationships between these people that makes you care about them, and then makes the action-packed sequences where they're threatened and under fire so much more dramatic and powerful. So we got to have these slower episodes to help develop things. So that worked for me, and I thought overall it was good. There are a couple. I'm with you. Lots of good things. A few things that threw it off a little bit for me. We can get to it in the bad section, but well,
let's get to it now. Let's get to our good.
My first good we already talked about was I loved this long, slow opener. I thought the music was great. I liked how that kind of not only gave it the badass, this is a badass group, this seasoned, tough action hero type group, but it also exemplified the fact that time is passing. Launch it. Yeah,
Right.
so it helped to show that time was passing, that they were making this trek, this journey, and then in between their travel, they're having these moments together where they're dealing with these issues, and that's where we get the insertion of the character development plots, like Rick and Tara kind of coming together. We can talk about that more, and then Tyrese and Carol and talking about their situation, and so I don't know. I just thought it was not only visually cool and action movie like, but it also worked as a way to show time passing and that they're on this trek, this journey.
Right.
Okay. You want me to keep going with my good?
Yeah.
We kind of talked again.
I'll correct you. I'll correct you when you're wrong.
Okay, so you'll basically chime in every time. So I love that they had they dealt with all those open issues. I thought the Rick and Tara's discussion was great. The fist bump was funny because if you recall, the termite or the terminus guy tries to fist bump them when they're going to show them around. Remember, he goes to Rick to fist bump him, and Rick's like,
I missed that.
Yeah, I think it was.
I knew
Rick.
There was something odd about that because she holds a fist out and he kind of looks at her like
he hesitates, like the last person that asked me to do this wanted to kill me and eat me.
Oh, okay.
So I thought that was kind of funny. I thought that the scene with Rick and Carol, I thought was just like perfect. It was just perfect. I thought that basically, he's asking for forgiveness from her, and he's saying
exactly. And I thought that's exactly how I thought. I didn't have those words in my head, but I thought that's exactly how it should have played out.
Right.
And it was at first when I was watching that scene, seeing him kind of basically try to make up with her, I thought he was going to be kind of I don't know, bully his way into it, I guess, and just kind of say, well, because he starts off saying, I like that he hasn't, while I condemn him for what he did, like I don't agree with him casting her out. I like the fact that he hasn't downshifted and is completely, I totally believe that you're good and blow up. He still has issues with it. I like that.
He says to her, I still don't know if what you did was right,
Right. So
I still don't think what you did is right.
So when he did that, I immediately think to myself, "Oh, geez, here it comes. Here comes the speech from the pedestal." And then when he said to her, "I sent you away to this, and now we're joining you. Will you have us?" I was like, "Wow, that was a great way to bring that resolution to the two of them." Well, it was very well done.
Yeah, I mean, he feels guilty.
Yeah,
and responsible, and now thankful. And I think the thing that really solidified the whole thing for me, though, was that it was clear she's still carrying a lot of guilt.
Oh, yeah.
She still feels bad about what she did, and she's contrite about it and did not expect that from him. If anything, she felt she just deserves to still be ostracized.
Well, and that plays out throughout the rest of the episode.
Correct. So, which was fantastic, and redeemed in my mind. Both of them were redeemed, and it just goes to show in this world sometimes you're going to do horrible things, but you can come back,
But that's the thing of the lingering issues, because we saw it also lingering with Tyrese. Tyrese, when he says to Carol that let's not talk about the girls because he's not ready to bring that up just yet,
right?
And so he's got to deal with that. And I also like the fact it seems in episodic TV that even though this is one big longer narrative, these are just little chapters, but still it seems as if too often there are issues that they just get resolved. And so it'd be real easy if this show was on ABC, say, it would be real easy for this to just be like, okay, it's all water on the bridge. That storyline's done and let's move on. But it was a big deal what she did.
Right.
The girls were a big deal. And that's not something that you just cast off. Even in this new paradigm of the world, that's something that you carry. That's baggage you carry with you. So I like that they had that she carried that with her. That even Daryl, and I might be jumping you a little bit here, but like the Daryl and Carol moment,
Right.
and they're just sitting there, and there's no speaking between them. He's looking at her, and she can feel the weight of his stare on her, and she's basically said, without looking at him, I'm not going to talk about it. And he was like, okay, and just that interaction. Just again, you've got people now that I've complained about it several times over the seasons that they don't act like people who've been in this zombie quote unquote apocalypse. But this season, and actually the past couple episodes in the last season, it's they understand each other. Now they're familiar with everybody's interactions and stuff. And I was reading an article somewhere online where they talked about old Scott Gimple. Scott Gimple of old would have done this, but the new Scott Gimple, he does this. He's more economic and stuff. And maybe there's something to that, but I feel like seasons ago, there would have been Daryl having a big, oh, come on, you've got to tell me, and here's why you got to tell me, and blah, blah, blah. But now it's so simple, and it's a great scene to sit there and have Carol say, I'm not going to tell you about it. Okay.
Right.
And that's it. Everything that you've needed to be, that could have been said in words, was said without saying words, just being next to each other. And that's,
I have that down as well as something to talk about here today with the less preaching and the dialogue being so much more sparse and economical and effective. There's just not the preaching that there used to be, and definitely see that as great show running, great writing. I don't know if it's fair to say old Scott Gimple versus new Scott Gimple. I think that Scott's been with the show for a long time as a writer, but he hasn't been a showrunner for but a season and a half, right? Or I think it was all last season. And a lot of what he had to go with, I'm sure, when he took over was already done, was already planned, was already written. You know what I mean? I don't think it was till the second half of last season or even the latter part of it, maybe that, or even, probably I think the latter half probably, that he probably was able to really exert some of his own direction and influence. But
although I do need to make it said that Robert Kirkman actually wrote this episode. Scott Gimple wrote last week's episode, but one of the things I want to say was it'd be interesting to compare Kirkman this season, or at least like say this episode, versus what he's written before, because Kirkman's known to be wordy and add dialogue, which is fine. Right. I'm all about dialogue, but
well, I think in the comic it's more important because it's harder to get across the nuances.
Right, but I'm saying about other episodes that he's written in the series.
Right, but what I'm saying is given that his background is the comic, it doesn't surprise me that he would kind of start out at TV writing being more wordy and too wordy, and that now being 4 seasons in is started to learn how to write differently for TV versus how he writes for the book. Yeah. I thought, since you brought up the Carol and Daryl thing, I thought that it was funny when he catches her trying to run out, and I just thought that what it said to me was it was like Daryl was like, I am not letting you out of my sight. It was like, I lost you once, then I lost Beth. That's it. You are not sneaking out on me. Nobody's getting out of my sight anymore, and that was great. I had Carol pegged for, in my mind, for getting taken by the hunters. I thought that was how they were going to, especially after that Rambo Carol, episode last week, just like we saw with Herschel when he got his hero episode. But I still think that Carol's potentially going to get taken out this season, but I was kind of surprised that it ended up being Bob. Did you notice that there was like a lot of kissing in this episode?
Yes.
I mean, there was Bob and Sasha were constantly kissing. Glenn and Maggie kissed. Rick and the baby kissed. It was just like more kissy than I've
I was waiting for Tyrese to put it down when lay the law down. He saw Bob, kissing his sister.
Yeah, he was totally rolling with that, right? He was totally rolling.
The kinder, gentler Tyrese.
Yeah. I like some of the religious symbolism. So even though some of it was a little overt, but like when Gabriel's down they're in that basement with the water, and he's freaking out because he obviously recognizes one of the zombies and he's losing it, and he backs himself up under a wall and he puts his arms out
Yep.
And then when she starts to get close, he just puts his head back in a very, very
Jesus Christ.
Jesus Christ on the cross role. And he was basically decided, I'm going to sacrifice myself. I'm going to just, let it happen. And I thought that was kind of interesting.
What I thought was funny about Gabriel, you bringing up the God thing. What I thought was interesting was how, so when they go to the little house on the prairie chapel there, and they go in the back room, and you see everybody in a different room. Carol walks by, and she sees him. He's been writing through all the books. Kind of like Kevin Spacey's character in Seven. And then Daryl walks by, and he saw the red thing on the wall of the Last Supper, and then Glenn sees some little knitted thing on the wall, and everybody kind of
Michonne's looking at pictures by kids.
And everybody kind of gets that little calming look on their face, kind of like, it's just, that's nice. But then, I think it was earlier when Gabriel brought up God, you could just see Rick had to control an eye roll, like, are you serious with this God crap? He was totally not buying it at all, not being swayed by it at all.
But I love that about the new Rick, because it's like he doesn't trust anybody, and they're totally like seasoned now. They're like. They don't buy anybody's story. That you're not trustworthy until you prove to be trustworthy.
Right.
And that's the smart way to be in this paradigm, So I thought another a little bit of a tip of the hat to religion was when Maggie's in with Tara having the conversation and in the church, and how Tara hits her with the bombshell of that she was with the governor who killed her father and was right there and everything. And Maggie's ability to kind of like swallow all that and then turn around and forgive her, I thought was in the setting of this church was more significant. I felt, it had more of this kind of spiritual forgiveness type of message. And I think also the first kind of demonstration we've seen of Maggie trying to impart lessons that she learned from her father. And that she's trying to carry on his way, and his spirit, and keep him alive that way, because that's definitely what Herschel would have done, So that's good.
Tara's lucky she approached Maggie in the church; otherwise, Maggie would have laid her out outside.
That's right. That's right. Let's see. Yeah, you mentioned already. I thought that was a nice writing touch to have Carol repeat to Daryl the exact same line that Therese had said to her. What do you think about the fact that she said, I don't want to talk about it, I just need to forget it, which is interesting because I think, you can't forget in this world. You know what I mean? It's like the things you do, it's impossible. You carry it with you. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to control you or whatever. And I think that's part of, there's going to be this whole idea of being able to like forget or ignore comes back to haunt people, and now we see that one of the hunters is the guy that Tyrese supposedly killed.
Yeah,
right.
I'm going to jump forward and talk about that. So
he's obviously lying. He's obviously lying to her.
Exactly, because what did we see at the end of last episode was Tyrese saying, "Well, I know it." And first of all, we saw him beat the snot out of that guy. Like there was blood coming out of a couple holes in his head.
Right.
And
I hate when that happens, by the way.
Yes.
When blood starts coming out of all the different holes in my head. I hate that.
Moving on. So,
TMI.
But and at the end, he was sitting at the campfire. What was his name?
Yeah.
Martin. Martin sitting at the campfire. Doesn't look like he's got any marks
I thought
on him.
that was weird. He didn't. I mean, he should have had. I mean, we saw the hits.
Now, when did you see? Now you saw Talking Dead afterwards, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so when they bring it up with Coleman, when Chris Hardwick brings it up with Coleman, and did you see his reaction? It was almost like,
well, he implied that Tyrese thought he was dead, that he beat the hell out of him, and he was bleeding all over the place, and that he thought he was dead.
See, but I took it right, and that's what he said. But the way he was kind of cadgy about his answer, it was almost kind of like, I don't really have an answer for that. Almost like he was as surprised to see Martin sitting at the campfire at the end. I don't know. Maybe Martin's got a twin.
No, I think that it's that he put across 2 or 3 bad, smashed him in the face 2 or 3 times, and then the camera cuts to outside. and you just hear Tyrese saying, what's he say? I won't. I think he's saying, I won't, I won't, I won't. Now, if he had stopped right then, after that, we see 2-3 hits, and then if the camera cuts out, maybe at that point he stopped and he was able, even though he kept saying, I won't, I won't, I won't, maybe he did in fact stop, and maybe he decides to let the guy live.
Okay, so what we've got here is we've got the potential for one of two things. One is that they're going to meet again,
right?
And either Tyrese knows that he, quote unquote, pulled his punches, like just left the guy, beat him up, thought he left him for dead, and walked away, and then realized, you know what, I need to go the extra mile the next time I meet a bad guy. So that's going to be some kind of learning moment for Tyrese for the next time, because like I said, he's the kinder, gentler, softer bear of the group, right? So either he's going to be surprised when he sees his guys alive, or they're going to see him again and he's going to be embarrassed because he let this guy live, like he knowingly let the guy live.
Well, I don't think, because it's the Walking Dead, it's not going to be that he's embarrassed. It's going to be that he is crushed by the fact that he didn't do it, because that guy's going to do something.
Martin's going to kill somebody.
Yeah, he's either going to kill Sasha or he's going to get Judith, and it's going to be his fault. And that's part of I think what's going on as a general story here, because when the season premiere opened, at the end, not opened, but when it ended, Rick wanted to go back and finish these guys and take them off the radar.
Right.
And nobody wanted to do that. And now they're paying the price for that. And, Tyrese said he killed that guy and he didn't. And now he's going to pay the price for that.
Yeah.
And that's sad, but that's definitely going to happen, I think.
I was just reading an interview, an article where they were talking about having whoever wrote the article had met or had heard Gimple and Kirkman at New York Comic Con, and they were basically saying there's going to be something horrible happens this season. I think a couple times, horrible deaths. And,
right.
It's funny that you brought up Judith dying, because she's an adorable little girl and no one likes to see a kid get killed. But I think you're right. I think I don't know if she survives this season.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. We know what happens in the comic, and we know how that's handled in the comic, but
which was horrendous and just an emotional.
Yeah, but I think that there may be. I don't know. I'm wondering if there isn't hesitation or even restriction being put on them by the network on that. You know what I mean? I don't know.
I definitely don't think it's
because look where they didn't go where the book went in the Michonne governor situation.
Right.
Right. So there's definitely somebody saying we got to put the brakes on TV because it's too much. And
well, if anything happens, it's going to happen off screen. I mean, it's going to.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, that could be too. But even that's going to still be bad. Although they've already done that. Just not an infant, but. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen there, but I definitely think that there's going to be a price to pay for letting that guy live if that's what happened.
Yep.
I thought it was the funny one was when Michonne reaches for the katana. She says, "I'll take care of this," and the zombies come out. And she reaches for the katana, and then it's not there, and she smiles.
I like that. Yeah.
That was great.
Now she had good interaction. She had a good conversation too, and it was basically what her thing was that she, and it kind of echoes Martin from last week, where she misses Andrea and she misses
that was
Herschel.
Fantastic. No one ever talks about that, and I think so great.
Absolutely. And then she says that she can't really remember. She doesn't miss anything before them. She doesn't miss the before. And, it's like all she can remember is the now. And that reminded me of Martin last week saying, I went to church. I know I went to church.
Oh, yeah. No, that's a good call. Yeah. There's a little bit of an echo of each other.
Yeah.
I thought it was, she says, I don't know what that was, referring back to the period when she was wandering with the zombies on the chains, and you know what I mean, and had her katana. Says, I don't know what that was, but it wasn't living.
Right.
And I thought that was, you could definitely, she has changed again.
Oh, she has so much more personality now.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. She's totally come out of her shell. And there was a little funny side note though, then when she said it, I don't miss that, like you said, but then she also said, and not even that sword.
Yeah.
And then I was live tweeting. tweeted, she may not miss it, but, and then I put hashtag, I miss the katana.
Yeah, no doubt.
Let's see what else. I thought it was funny when Gabriel started puking after he got
And everybody just kind of looks at him like,
and everybody's like, oh, God, what a wimp. And then he says, do I look like I have a weapon on me? And Abraham says, you don't give two short curlies what you look like. I thought that was great.
Wait for Abraham to bring the West Virginia to the.
Yeah. And then I thought it was great to see Rick give Gabriel the prison quiz. We haven't seen that in a while.
Yeah.
And also it was interesting this time because, he doesn't trust this guy now. It was like when that was developed, it was to kind of establish whether you could trust somebody. Have they killed zombies? Have they killed people? And if they've killed people, they're less trustworthy. You know what I mean? Right. Kind of. Now it's almost like if you haven't killed people, then I don't trust you either. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So I thought that was kind of an interesting.
Well, Gabriel's whole thing was that nobody trusts him. He's got a secret. There's something that he's hiding, and there's something about him, and he's so. And given what Carl found scrawled on the side of he found two things. He found it looked like someone had been trying to get in with a sharp object, trying to get in through the window. And then he sees which I thought was funny. He sees something scrawled on, this has to mean something, Dad. Well, yeah, it says you're going to burn for this, scrawled on the I think it means something there, Nancy Drew. So I can we come to an agreement that pretty much, and I kind of don't remember what it was in the comic, but basically he walled himself off inside of the church, and people wanted to come in, and he didn't let them in.
Right.
Right.
I think that's kind of where. Yeah, I think that's. I don't want to spoil. I got a spoiler for the comic here, so if you don't want to hear that, then jump ahead.
If you're 70 issues behind in Walking Dead, don't listen.
When you put it like that, I don't feel so bad. But in the comic, that's what happens. When it starts, he basically shuts the doors, and all of his the members of his church show up, and they're trying to get in, and he won't let them in, and the zombies basically eat them, and he has to listen to it. And it was just a horrible thing, and selfish and everything else. And here he was, this man of the cloth. But it was interesting last night. They were talking about it on The Talking Dead, and they drew it together a little bit differently. And I think this is how the show. I mean, they didn't say this is definitely what it is, but they speculated. We see that the girl, the woman zombie with the glasses that he's in the basement,
librarian zombie?
Yeah, the librarian zombie. He recognized. And then later he's looking at the picture of him and her. Right. So there was some sort of relationship going on with her. She ran the other food bank.
Yep.
Okay. When all the food he had was supposed to go to that bank. So the theory that they were throwing out was that he collected all the food bank stuff, and then this started to happen. And rather than get that to the food bank, he closed everything down, locked himself in, and kept all the food for himself. And so not only would he leave people out from shelter, but they had nothing to eat. Yeah. And then in turn, everybody there went to the other food bank, and that probably got overrun and chaos, and probably led to her getting killed and becoming a zombie.
Yep.
So, so now he's not only guilty of being, if this is the way it pans out, being selfish and everything else, he also basically led to the death of that woman who obviously meant something to him. I love Daryl's line when he says, when Gabriel makes this guy's funny. He is funny because he's clearly, not only is he hiding something, but he's a bit of an ass.
Horribly. The joke that he makes in the beginning.
Oh my God, that was so stupid. I can't believe Rick didn't just hit him in the back of his head with the butt of his gun right there, and knock him out and just say, forget this guy.
Oh my Lord. Yeah.
I mean, that was out of control, man. It was so stupid. And I love the reaction of the whole crew. And that was because they all just kind of come to a stop. And Rick's looking at him like, are you fucking kidding me? You know what I mean? And then he goes, well, my people said that I have a horrible sense of humor. And Daryl goes, yes, you do. That was great.
Well, it's funny because being such a huge fan of The Wire, the actor who played Gabriel is Seth Gilliam,
Yeah.
and I kept expecting, and so on The Wire he was this detective
Yep.
Carver, and I kept waiting for his partner Herc to pop out of the woods, and
That guy Herc is an ass. That guy Herc is an ass too. Uh, yeah, they did a good job in that show. I'm almost done with that. I think I'm on the last season now.
that's good. It's been off the air for like 10 years, so
Yeah, I know. I was binge watching it. Another fantastic scene and short, very little dialogue. Again, seasons past, like you said, this would have been handled in a preachy way, and it wasn't, and it didn't need to be, and it was so much more effective. They're all walking into the church, and basically Rick and Abraham have had a little spat about the bus and getting the bus ready to go north, because Abraham's all about getting to DC.
Yep.
And Michonne jumps in and is like, well, no matter what we're doing, we got to get supplies. And Rick agrees, and they go in, and everybody walks by Abraham. and she says, I forgot what she said. Somebody, I think it was Michonne. I don't know. Somebody said something to him about, I'm sorry, but I'm doing whatever Rick's doing. I'm going with Rick. You know what I mean? And they go in, and then the next one guy comes up. I think it was Bob, and
Bob who said,
he's like,
what she
said.
We
want to roll with you, man. We want to roll with you, but you know what he said. And then the next one was like, yeah, what she said.
Yeah.
It's like, and they all just walk by. That was great. But it was just so perfect because it's so little dialogue, and it just said, Rick is the leader, man. Rick is the man, and we are following him. And I tell you, he is so much more like the Rick in the comic book now.
Yes.
Than he ever has been.
Yes.
And it's great. It's just great to see that,
That scene in the church at the end when they're all hanging around, they're drinking the wine, and then Abraham holds a toast, and he basically puts his full court press on. I'm just groaning as I'm watching the scene, going, "Oh my Lord, no!"
That's one of my bads. But go ahead.
but still, I actually it caught me by surprise because Rick kind of sitting there, and Judith burbles something, and he says, "See, I think she agrees," or whatever it was that she said, and he says, "Okay, yeah, we'll go to DC." I was surprised by that, but there was something, I don't know, there was something genuine about that moment that I bought it.
Well, I think the whole celebration moment was because they handled that so well. It wasn't over the top, but it was, what these people have been through, and they're finally united and safe for the moment. They would relax a little bit, and
the only thing wrong with that scene though, with that moment, is Eugene. Oh my Lord! How can anybody take any words that come out of this guy's mouth?
Well, that's why it fell into my bad. That whole speech fell into my bad, because I'm still finding it hard to believe that this group would be swayed by these three people. They're just, and especially Eugene.
by the generalisms, and no, that's a perfect point. I know we're jumping ahead to the bad, but that's a perfect point, because as meticulous as they are about patting down a priest, and I don't trust this guy, there's something weird with this guy, as much as their radar, their spidey sense is going off that there's something odd about this guy, and they can't put their finger on it. Eugene drops generalisms, and they kind of go, "Okay, yeah, that sounds kind of smart. Those are big words." And
what was different this time that I could at least gave me something to say, man, maybe I could hang my hat on this, is why they would go. But he talked more about what would be in Washington, and that makes sense. That there would be shelters, that there would be protected zones, that there would be the materials in place to try and begin rebuilding. If it's going to be anywhere, it's going to be in DC.
Right.
And that's believable. That is believable. So they're sitting there too. I think Rick's probably like, well, where the hell else are we going to go?
Right.
You know what I mean? There's no other plan. You know what I mean? So that makes sense. Let's go. Whether this guy's got the cure or doesn't, there is probably a good chance that. Now, that being said, I would think you'd want to stay away from, large cities. There's just nothing but massive amounts of dead in cities. But but anyway, so yeah, that was one of the weaker points. Another weaker point for me, since we kind of started hitting on some of the bad, was the discussion, the one-on-one with Rick and Carl. For me, I thought Rick's side was perfect. but I don't know. I don't know if it's just that I just don't like the actor as much as I wish I did, or if it's the way they're directing it or whatever. But he just seems naive still to me a little bit. You know,
I absolutely agree. I think that I'm the same way. I want to really like. I don't. He got strong towards the back half of last season, right?
right.
And he became a much better character. I thought the actor was much better at what he was doing. This year, 2 episodes, true, but this so far it's I'm not buying the actor, and you're right. His writing, how they're writing him, it's just he's really.
I mean, especially after what happened with the Claimers, it just seems to me that he would be so much more cautious or negative about people, and instead he's quite, he's like, oh, we can still be, there's still good people out there, and it's
everybody can't be bad. We're strong enough to help others.
Right, we don't have to hide.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just
were you awake at Terminus? Because
you almost got eaten.
You were almost an appetizer there.
Yeah. How about the scene where Daryl stops Carol from taking off? Or no, it wasn't that. It was when they first. It wasn't when it was taking off. It was when they first find that car and they're walking with the water.
Yeah.
I think I'd love to hear if this is the case or not, but I think that was a blooper that they went with.
I agree. I absolutely agree. Because the look on her face and
I know,
and her response,
it was perfect.
I want to carry the water, and then he dropped, basically
he reaches out, it takes it, and he ends up throwing his bucket right at her and hits the ground, and she looks at him and just starts almost laughing, and she's like, nope.
And that was such a perfect addition. Like leaving that blooper in was awesome. I agree with you. I totally thought it was a blooper. Real.
I mean, that's the kind of shit that happens.
Exactly.
Kind of shit that happens, And
it kind of drew the scene. It lessened the intensity of the scene a little bit, and the whole and it just brought that interaction between Carol and Daryl together.
Right.
Now, I'm just gonna make a mention off of Abby Q's
letter.
Yeah, off of Abby Q's letter. He said that he makes a comment. I've read it now. I just gotta find it. What does he say? He says something about Abby Q, about Carol and Rick hooking up.
Oh yeah.
He sees the two of them getting together.
Well, that's not the first time I've heard that too. And if you look, he says unless they pop another woman into the picture, I can see Rick and Carol together. Then again, I also like Carol and Daryl, not in any shipping way. But and I think that's a possibility because Carol seems to be taking on some of the comic book version of Andrea.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if that was a possibility. Plus, age-wise, it makes more sense for them to be together rather than Daryl and her. But
Abby also puts in his post. He says the group has so many kick-ass ladies now, it's insanity, and they're all kind of hot in their own way. It's almost magical, which I agree. But he's got a point. You've got a group. There's not a and again, it's the zombie apocalypse and this new paradigm of existence. So you can't necessarily be weak in this environment, but still, they're all strong women in their own way.
No, I think exactly what you just said. I wouldn't downplay what you just said. In a zombie apocalypse, it's only the strong are going to survive.
Yeah.
So it's the strong women and the strong men. The only reason Eugene or Carl have survived is because they're surrounded by strong people who are, raising up and protecting them. But I agree with him.
And I also think that I'm just gonna, not that I'm trying to bash network TV, but I think that if this was on ABC or on a network, you'd still have a model or some princess holding on to her, still walking around her Louboutins, and
you'd have a predominantly male cast.
Yep.
You would have maybe one strong female, and then you'd have one or two pretty females.
Right.
I mean, absolutely, who were needed to be rescued all the time. So absolutely, I think they're doing a much better job of putting together much more realistic women characters. But there's a lot of women on the show now. He makes a good point. That's why I was kind of surprised that Bob is the one that ended up in the Hunter's grip. But I'm wondering if we aren't going to lose more before that's resolved, which is kind of scaring me a little bit. Because in the comic, again, for those who are 70 books behind, it's just the one. But I suspect that's not going to be the case. Was that the significance of the cut mark in the tree?
Okay, so
were the termites trying to communicate that they've taken one, and then every time they take one, they're going to mark that tree?
I don't know. Something I was reading online or a tweet somewhere, someone postulated that maybe that's the group.
Hold on, I got to Google that word again.
I used a big word, more than one syllable for. They said, what if those marks are the group that took Beth, and that's their line of communication? So they're the saviors, right? From the comics.
The saviors is Negan. Oh,
right. So, all right, not the saviors, but
yeah, that they have that car with the cross in the back. That's probably why you're thinking the saviors. Yeah. So maybe. Obviously, they're tied in somehow because we just saw that car.
But the thing is how would the termites have made those cut marks on the tree unless there was this massive time lapse between when the group passed the no sanctuary sign that Rick had written on, and then Morgan shows up? How would they have marked all those trees?
Well, there definitely is. Definitely is. And you know that because I can send you this picture. I just sent it to another friend. Someone took the picture of Morgan with the sign and then took the same picture, same shot of the sign after Rick marks it up and put the two together. Yeah. And you can tell that a lot of time has passed.
Oh, really?
First of all, the sign is much more faded. And two, there's vegetation growing all over it. So it's been at least a couple of weeks, if not months.
Oh, okay.
Most likely weeks, with what I would guess. But there's all these vines all over it that are not over it when they first write on top of it. So Morgan's time frame we're seeing is a jump. Okay, ahead.
So maybe that's why Martin could appear at that campfire without having his face all beat up from Tyrese. Maybe we're a couple weeks post Terminus and not what it feels like a couple days. Right? Because don't you kind of get that feel when you
read it that way? I didn't read it that way. I think we're still a couple days from Terminus with the main crew, but that one scene of Morgan was a flash forward.
Okay.
Flash forward.
Okay.
So just that title after the title or after the credits, that one scene with Morgan was a flash forward.
Okay.
Morgan comes upon that sign weeks or months after all that we're seeing now has already taken place. So maybe those symbols will be from our people. That's interesting. That's an interesting idea, because I was like, what are those symbols? What are they? But we're definitely going to find out, because that's probably what's going to happen. Somewhere during the season, someone's going to go back and put those symbols there for a reason. And it's either going to be the termites or it'll be our guys, I guess,
Well, didn't you notice after they knocked Bob down at the end, and then he slumps to the ground, and then the camera just kind of zooms in on that horizontal slash mark on the tree?
Yeah, that's what I was asking. I don't understand what that slash mark is.
I thought you meant the X with the circles around it.
No, that's from the Morgan thing. We haven't seen that since, have we?
Right.
No, this was some sort of a slash, but they focused in on it, and to me, it looked like a notch. Like a notch in a belt, or a notch to indicate, the first one. This is our first one. That's kind of how I read that,
Except that we never saw them. We didn't see them make them.
Yeah, we didn't see them make it. So I don't know. Maybe it's just bad editing or something. I don't know. Or maybe they're going to come across that notch and figure out, every time that someone goes, there's another notch. I don't know. What did you think about Daryl and Carol running after that car? I mean,
I bought it, but
I think it's stupid. I mean,
but you're right. It is dumb, but
it's another example of what happens when they don't talk to each other. They don't tell when they keep secrets. Nobody knows what happened to him and Beth. He just said she's gone.
But I get him acting like that. Like it's always I always try to put myself in the character's position. Like if I was there and I saw that, what would I do? You know what? There's not time to run back and tell everybody what's going on, and then come back out to the car. The car just went there. I thought it was smart of him to kill the lights so they don't.
Yeah, that
so
was
they can
cool.
be
So
stealthy.
right.
So I bought it. I think that's
No, I bought
like
it. I bought it.
What you say. Not smart,
dangerous.
but heat of the moment. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I bought it. I just think it's dangerous to not, not let people know where they're going because and I think it was the preview, not to give spoilers, but in the preview of next week, you hear the voiceover of Sasha. She's saying, now we've got 3 people missing.
Right.
So they're assuming that Carol and Daryl are part of that missing with Bob.
And I'm going to address Beth for a second because Abby Q's brought it up, I think, 2 weeks now about how it annoys him that Maggie hasn't said anything about her sister. And I kind of let it go last week because there was a lot of stuff going on, and it's I think it's a valid point. She doesn't. All the stuff that we were kind of bringing to an end or kind of resolving this week. Tara going to Maggie. I mean, that would have been a great moment for Maggie to talk about her sister. She didn't do it. It's all the resolution we had between characters. You'd have thought that that Maggie would be Daryl. You were the last one who saw her. Okay, so tell me again. Tell me about this car. Tell me about blah blah blah. And she's not. She's just kind of goo eyes with Glenn. So. Abby, I'm with you this week. I totally get you.
I'm with you too, Abby. I agree. It's on my list of the bad. I think that it's a weak point that they should be addressing. I think since we're talking about Bab now, well, before we do that, what did you? I thought that there was some symbolism with Bob standing outside when he's looking back at the church. And they're all inside, and he's obviously torn up. And did you notice when they cut from behind him, he's looking at the church, and in between him and the church are 2 big gravestones.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a little foreshadowing there, but the fact that there's 2 makes me concerned.
Okay, so what was your take on Bob? Why he, as soon as he asked Sasha for that second kiss?
Yep.
I was like, he's bit. He's scratched, or something happened. Because he had a weird look on his face, too, with the squidgy zombie.
When she says to him, "Are you okay?" and the look on his face is like saying no, but he says, "Yes, I'm fine, and I'm okay now."
And then the second kiss, he asks for that second kiss, and then he walks outside and he kind of gets teary. He's totally
I agree. I totally think he's bitten. I think that's setting up one of the quintessential lines, or one of the most renowned lines from the comic. About tainted meat.
Yeah.
So I'll be surprised if we don't get that next week. That should be pretty funny. But yep, I agree. I thought if anything, they telegraphed that a little too much.
Too much, yes.
That was under my bad. He definitely mood wise changed. I agree. The second kiss was a giveaway because then after she departs, he lowers his head. He's definitely feeling not like he did in the beginning of the episode when he's asked for that second kiss.
Yep.
The world is not bright in front of him right now.
Yep.
So that to me that was a little telegraphed. And I talked about Rick and Carl's speech and Abraham's speech, and Maggie still not mentioning her sister. So those were my only bads. Did you have any other bads?
No, that was pretty much all I had too. And they weren't huge. They weren't huge enough for me to completely just derail the. But
another one that fell a little flat for me, it was in perfect contrast to the Daryl Carol water jug joke, which was funny. Then you had the Glenn Maggie Tara where he comes out of the gun shop.
Oh, that was funny. Yeah.
Yeah, and she's like, but I thought it was like, to me it felt kind of flat. I don't know. I just like, oh no, I tripped over a box, and now he's kind of embarrassed because he was bragging about it was a zombie and it wasn't, and. Yeah, it just kind of just fell flat. May have been the delivery, I don't know. But in contrast, that Daryl,
well, it just didn't feel as natural as the other one. The other one was.
Right. I agree. All right, what about ugly?
Wow, for me, there's just one ugly, and it's a gorgeous ugly, and it's that end. Holy cow!
The what?
The end with Bob and Garrett showing up, and I love that actor, and I love
he's good.
and when they pan down and you see the Bob's, they made Bob's Burgers out of his leg. That was
Bob, everybody on Twitter was going Bob BQ.
So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, I thought that way they handled that whole scene with the way they cut in slowly with the foggy kind of blurry. He's getting glimpses of people, glimpses of the fire, and then Gareth's face kind of comes clean, comes crystal clear, and it's right in his face. That was very powerful, very very strong.
Yeah, the first one you see one of the henchmen, and it comes into view and then goes back out of view. And when I saw that guy, I was like, wait, where have I seen that guy before? And then when we see Martin, I was disjointed from the scene because I was like, no, Martin's dead. Tyrese killed him.
Right.
And then we go in and out, and then you hear Garrett speaking, and that's when I caught on, but it was a little disjointed at the beginning.
Yeah.
But that's great. I love that.
Yeah, it was. I mean, Gareth is just a really really good villain. He's so cold and detached. I just want you to know this isn't personal. You're eating my leg. You know what I mean? You can't get any more personal than that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, it wouldn't just be you. We'd be doing this to anybody, he says.
Yeah.
That's very much from the comic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I look forward to seeing him and Rick showdown. I'm a little worried that they're going to drag this out longer than they did in the comic. But
yeah, it
got a feeling,
has that feel, and
I got that feeling we're going to be here until the mid-season break, and then they're going to be launching off to DC in the second half. That's what I think.
That's too long.
I think it is too long. I mean, I would say maybe 2 more episodes. They could establish who these people are, and then they go about taking them out.
But you know what? We have a new wild card. We've got a wild card out there that when I can see the hunters getting our group into a situation where it seems like there's no way out and we're going to lose a couple people, but we've got a wild card. And that wild card is Morgan, who isn't on anybody's radar and comes up from the rear area and saves the day.
Could be, but I don't think so, because I think, again, like we just were talking about, I think the Morgan scenario is what in the future. I mean, I think he's not at that scene yet. So I don't see that coming. But we do have Daryl and Carol and Beth potentially coming back, and that's definitely could.
Okay, so one other thing we need to bring up is Gareth knew Bob's name.
Say that again.
Gareth knew Bob's name.
Yes.
Called him Bob.
Right.
So, and remember, Bob has talked about in the past about he's been in different groups that didn't quite work out. So do you think Bob is a former termite?
No, I don't think so. I think he remembers his name because he talked to him at, back in Terminus when he pulled the towel out of his mouth and let him speak and have his, make his case for not killing them. I think at that point they forged a little bit of a bond, because remember he says to him, remember I told you, you can't go back. Okay. And so I think he's just kind of remembering him. Okay. But that was, and then even he's sitting there munching on that stuff while he's talking to him. Just horrific. Just horrific. Just horrific.
I'm going to talk to you, and while I'm talking to you, I'm going to be nibbling on your leg.
That's right.
That I've cut off.
Ugh. Yeah. And he says, by the way, you taste better than we thought you would. Oh, that was horrible. That was horrible. But what else? But yeah, that's why I think we're going to see him for a while, because they've definitely invested in him. And I think that they're going to want to spread that out for a couple episodes, or at least till the midseason, would be my guess. Plus, hopefully I think we're going to get a lot more about the Beth scenario. I think that may end up being an episode or 2 of its own, would be my guess.
All right. So have you hit all of your, and You're Ugly, I'm assuming?
Yeah, I was on board with that. And then I also thought that the whole battle in the basement with the water walkers was just impressive, just wild. I mean, those walkers, that was some amazing special effects, man, with the skin falling off of them. And even to like when they're sticking the knives and stuff in their heads and it's not goo coming out, it's like water. It was like they were so waterlogged, You know,
Hey,
like
Mama
these,
always said you can't stay in the water too long, and now I know why.
they were the biggest pool prunes I've ever seen.
How is this one gonna play out in your tribute piece this week?
Oh yeah, I'm working on that. I don't know. We'll see. I'm definitely got to get them in there though because they were just too beautiful.
Well, it was funny because there were
In an
there were a
ugly
couple of
way.
them that were just dripping, like
Yeah, the
skin
skin was
dripping
just
off them, and
falling
I
off
said,
them.
I was reminded of it, and then seeing the Talking Dead afterwards, they talked about how Greg Nicotero got inspiration from the character Emil from RoboCop when he falls into a vat of nuclear waste. And as
Right.
he's running around, he's like wailing, and it's just skin is just dripping off him, and
Ugh.
he
I
got hit
didn't
by a
see
car
that.
and
It's on
smushed
post.
on a windshield. Yeah, that was. But he said that's where they got their inspiration
Yeah.
for one of them, and I totally got that.
Yeah, I thought it was awesome. And I
I was
loved
really proud of myself because I rarely ever get, I'm rarely on the forefront of getting something. I'm like, but I was there. It's like, oh, dude, that's like RoboCop.
enjoy it.
Yes, I am basking in
It'll
the.
probably be a while for the next one.
Yeah,
I love
probably
too
not.
the zombie under the water. That
Yeah,
and that would have been one of my main fears of doing what they did, of going down in there, would be that there would be zombies lying on the bottom because, again, one of the quintessential zombie books of all time, World War Z, does a whole great thing about the fact that the zombies, because they don't breathe or don't have to or whatever, they just walk in these masses, and if they walk into water, they just keep going.
yeah.
And they have to develop this entire like military special forces group that just goes around underwater to take the zombies out that are in these herds underwater. And I thought that was cool to see that. That was great.
And Kirk has yet to be in an ocean since World War Z.
That and Jaws.
Yeah.
They really put the kibosh on that. So you got a kill of the week, zombie kill of the week?
Yeah, so I really like the zombie face smash. Although I really liked Michonne, I believe it was, or was it Sasha? I think it was Michonne, reaching behind her underneath and death by KitchenAid, grabbing the blender blade, spinning it around, and I thought that was really cool. So she's running around with a little. She's like the Swedish chef with that thing in her hand. That was awesome.
That was awesome. That was great. I thought that was great too. I liked the and it wasn't so much because of the kill, although the kill was great. There's a kill where Daryl takes out a zombie up close in the head with an arrow. In the beginning, it's but it was just, there was something cool about that zombie when he comes around that rock. He had like a bop. I don't know if you.
Yeah, he had like a distinguished look about it. I was looking at him like, is this a character we should have seen before? Because they just somehow seem to spotlight this guy.
Yeah, he definitely had a unique look about him. Like he didn't, you could get 10 zombies in a row in the show and be like, well, they all kind of look the same. But this guy, like, he had attitude. You know what I mean?
He was like Alan Moore.
He was awesome.
For those of you who are comic book fans, you'll know what that reference is.
It was awesome. I thought he was a great zombie, and then Daryl just walks up and basically at point blank range puts an arrow in his head. I thought that was a pretty good way for him to go. So, what about your character of the week?
Character of the week, I've got to go with. I think I went with Carol. Just because I don't know. I like the conflict in her, and I like the fact that she was
conflicted about being there.
Yeah, and I really like the actress and how she's portraying it. And again, it could have been really easy for Carol to just be going off on these long narrations about why she did what she did and justifying and blah blah blah, and she doesn't. She just keeps it to herself and is like, I don't want to talk about it. And there was just something about this week that I really liked her.
Yeah, I thought she was great. I got to go with either Rick or Bob. I thought that Rick is just so now clearly the leader, and just making good decisions and being wise. Like the way he handles Gabriel is just, there's just no more pulling the wool over his eyes, and then the same thing. I thought Bob was great. It was just a sad sad situation for him. Things were finally starting to look up. Remember, this guy was a guy who was out by himself. He always outlived all the groups. Then he was alone. He was an alcoholic. It was just what a sad sack,
Yeah.
And then he hooks up with this group. He gets himself straightened out. And he starts falling in love with Sasha, and they've got this good thing going. And now his whole outlook on the world has changed, and things are going to be all right. They're going to go DC. We're going to get all straightened out. I mean, and then boom, now he's sitting on the Barbie for the termites. So that was very powerful and painful. So
yeah,
I had to give it up to Bob. He did a good job, and I can't believe he's going to make it through. So, and I hate to see him go because he's a good actor. And he's been a good addition to the team. But
yeah, I was getting the two actors, him and Gabriel. They're both Wire alum, and so Bob is Lawrence Gilliard Jr. and Gabriel is Seth Gilliam. So I always get them mixed up.
Well, and so is Tyrese.
Right, but Gilliam and Gilliard, I always get their last names.
Yeah. Yep. All right, and then like we have mentioned, we've kind of referred to it quite a bit, but we got a letter from Abby Q, and thank you so much to everybody that's been posting on the message board over at Facebook. We've tried to respond to that. We will try to read your letters here when there's time, and if they pertain to the episode we're talking about. So do we want to read some of this, or do we kind of went over some of it already, right?
Yeah, we went over the main points of his letter. Abby Q is always very insightful to
he is episode. And really thorough. And we all we really appreciate his writing in. I liked his idea about Rick and Carol possibly getting together. His Walker kill was the Liberian lady, of course. He thought that was the best. He gave the episode 3.5 headshots. So he's a little less than us.
Yeah.
He really wants Bob to stick around, and Sasha as well. So he's hoping for that. Let's see. The new intro he thought was awesome, which we talked about, especially the ending scene. He also agrees that the Lonely Walker is one of his favorite scenes from episode 18. Episode 18 Miles Out. He saw what you saw about Gabriel and Rick. He said, I also noticed when Gabe was talking about God, Abby says, Rick had this look about him like, please don't mention him.
Yeah.
Let's see, what else did he say? He doesn't think there's any way they're going to kill off Daryl because he pulls too much audience, which I tend to agree with him on. He's never been a big Daryl fan. Anyway, and he's a big follower of he wanted to thank us. He thinks he loves a big follower of the show. Abby, we're a big fan of yours. We appreciate your insights and your comments. Please keep posting them. And same thing with everybody else.
All right. So if you've got nothing else and I've got nothing else, then let's call an end to this episode.
Yep. Thanks everybody too for your comments about the tribute art piece that I posted up. I'm working on a new one for this most recent episode. Hope to have that up by the end of the week, or at least before the next episode. You should definitely, if you're interested in seeing that when it's ready, you definitely should follow me on Twitter at BatmanKM. And then I always post that on Twitter first, and then try to put it up on Facebook.
All right.
Did you see Mr. Gimple retweeted?
No, I didn't.
Did you see? Yeah, he retweeted, and he said the man is back.
Nice.
So that's good. So
yeah, no pressure.
No pressure. That's right. No pressure.
All right. Well,
if
you like what you listen to, please leave us ratings, leave us comments, tell your friends about us, and we will.
Yeah, definitely check out, if you're into podcasts. You got to check out more of Southgate Media's offerings, because, man, they just keep growing. They're the parent company we're with, and they have podcasts for everything. And Jeff, of course, does, I think, about 90% of them himself. What are you on now? Half a dozen? But no. I want to listen to your Flash podcast, though, because we're really digging that show. And
yeah, it's a great show.
Yeah.
So if you're interested in the Flash TV show that's on the CW, come listen to me and my buddy Scott Malkus as we talk about the show on Fast Talkers, and we also do one for American Horror Story, which is Disturbed. So check us out.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you next week.
Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
If you would like to donate to help pay for this and other Southgate Media Group podcasts, simply go to our website, southgatemediagroup.com, and click on the donate button. It can be as little as $1 or, well, as much as you want. Help keep this fun going by supporting this and our other shows. Thanks again for listening, everyone. You're the best fans in the world.